The Talking Tree. Once upon a time, in a deep, dark forest, there was a talking tree. This tree was unlike any other tree in the forest, for it had the gift of speech. Its bark was rough and wrinkled, its branches twisted and gnarled, but its voice was smooth and soothing, like the gentle rustling of leaves in the wind. The talking tree had lived in the forest for centuries, watching over the other trees and creatures that called the forest home. It had seen the seasons change, watched the leaves turn from green to gold, and felt the first snowflakes of winter land upon its branches. It had witnessed the comings and goings of countless animals, from the smallest insects to the largest bears. But despite its long life and wisdom, the talking tree was lonely. For years, the talking tree had spoken to the animals of the forest, but none of them could understand its words. It had watched them play and hunt and mate, but it had never been able to join in. The talking tree longed for someone to talk to, someone who could understand the secrets it held and the stories it had to tell. One day, a young girl wandered into the forest. She was lost and frightened, with tears streaming down her face. She stumbled upon the talking tree and collapsed at its base, crying out for help. The talking tree spoke to her in its gentle voice, asking her what was wrong. To the girl's surprise, she could understand the words of the talking tree. It told her stories of the forest, of its long life and the creatures that lived there. It shared its wisdom and its secrets, and the girl listened with wonder and amazement. She told the talking tree of her own troubles, of the fear and sadness she had carried with her on her journey through the forest. The talking tree listened with empathy and compassion, offering words of comfort and support. The girl felt as though she had found a friend, someone who understood her and cared for her. She spent hours talking to the tree, sharing her hopes and fears, and listening to its tales. As the sun began to set, the girl realized that she needed to find her way home. She thanked the talking tree for its kindness and promised to return. The tree watched as she walked away, its branches rustling softly in the breeze. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. The girl returned to the forest often, seeking the comfort and wisdom of the talking tree. She shared her adventures with the tree, and the tree shared its own stories in return. They formed a deep bond, a connection that transcended the barriers of language and species. As the girl grew older, she began to bring others to the talking tree. She introduced her friends to the gentle giant, and they too were amazed by its gift of speech. They listened to its stories and shared their own, forming a community around the tree. The talking tree had finally found the companionship it had been longing for. It had found friends who could understand its words and appreciate its wisdom. And the girl had found a sense of belonging, a place where she could be herself and find comfort in the beauty of the natural world. Years passed, and the talking tree watched as the girl and her friends grew old and passed away. But the memories of their conversations remained, etched into the tree's ancient bark. And though the talking tree remained in the forest, it was never alone again. For it had found the greatest gift of all, the gift of friendship. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, the young boy awoke from his peaceful slumber. He rubbed his eyes, stretched his arms, and looked around to take in the beauty of the forest. The talking tree stood tall and proud, its branches reaching up to the sky as if they were trying to touch the heavens above. The boy remembered the promise he had made to the tree the night before. He got up from his makeshift bed, brushed the leaves and twigs off of his clothes, and walked over to the tree. As he approached, he saw the face of the tree come to life, its eyes glowing brightly. "Good morning, young one," the tree said in a deep, soothing voice. "Did you sleep well?" The boy nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "I did. Thank you for letting me rest here." The tree chuckled. "You're welcome. But remember, you have a task to fulfill." The boy's smile faded as he remembered the reason for his journey. He was on a quest to find the lost city of the ancients, a place of great power and knowledge. The talking tree was his guide, and it had promised to lead him to the city, but only if he fulfilled certain tasks along the way. "What do I have to do today?" the boy asked, his voice trembling with excitement and fear. "Today, you must cross the river of tears," the tree replied. "It is a treacherous journey, but you must not falter. The city lies on the other side." The boy nodded, steeling himself for the task ahead. He bid farewell to the talking tree and set off towards the river. The journey was long and arduous, and he faced many obstacles along the way. But he never lost sight of his goal, and he never gave up. Finally, he reached the River of Tears. The water was deep and dark, and the currents were strong. He could hear the cries of the lost souls who had drowned in the river, and he felt a shiver run down his spine. He took a deep breath and waded into the water. The currents pulled at him, trying to drag him under, but he fought against them with all his strength. He could feel the tears streaming down his face, mingling with the waters of the river. As he reached the middle of the river, he felt a hand grab onto his ankle. He looked down and saw the ghostly figure of a woman, her hair flowing in the current. She was begging for help, pleading with him to save her. The boy was torn. He wanted to help the woman, but he knew that if he stopped, he would be dragged down with her. He closed his eyes and prayed for strength. In that moment, he heard a voice in his head. It was the voice of the talking tree, whispering words of wisdom and encouragement. He drew on the strength of the tree and pulled his leg free from the woman's grasp. He continued on, fighting against the current and the cries of the lost souls. Finally, he reached the other side of the river. He crawled out of the water, exhausted and soaked to the bone. But he was alive, and he had made it across. He looked up and saw the city of the ancients looming in the distance. He knew that his journey was not yet over, but he had overcome his greatest challenge yet. He had faced his fears and emerged victorious. The boy smiled, knowing that he had the strength and courage to face whatever lay ahead. He thanked the talking tree for its guidance and set off towards the city, ready for whatever lay ahead.